I'll bet you've never heard of Waterville Valley, but you probably will soon. Nestled in New Hampshire's White Mountains, Waterville is often overshadowed by nearby resorts like Loon and Bretton Woods. However, their 2019 master development plan might just change that, and several parts of it have already been undertaken. Join us today as we discuss the plan to transform a beloved locals hill into an all-season destination resort. As it stands right now, Waterville Valley has an amazing compact ski hill with a huge racing culture and local feel. In fact, if you do know the name Waterville Valley, that's probably because you heard about the World Cup Moguls event in January that got relocated to Waterville. The mountain has a history of hosting World Cup races, with one trail even named after it. By and large, Waterville has a rich and interesting history, which we don't have time to dive into in this video. If you're interested, however, much of the history is recounted on page 8 of the master plan document. Before jumping into the details of each proposed project in the plan, let's briefly go over what a master plan is and is not. Often called MDPs for short, master development plans are huge documents submitted to the National Forest or other governing bodies that contain analysis of current resort operations, the most pressing needs of a mountain, and future plans to address such needs. It is important to note that approval of a master plan does not constitute approval for any of the projects contained within. It is simply the Forest Service saying they support the vision, while each project still needs individual approval before execution. One piece that's very important for ski areas on Forest Service lands is the Special Use Permit. An SUP is issued to a ski area by the Forest Service, serving as permission for the ski area to conduct commercial operations upon a specific piece of land. These SUPs have a finite term, often 40 years, and only apply to a specific tract. That's to say, for ski areas to grow, they often need to work with the Forest Service to expand their SUP boundary, which is exactly the case with Waterville. But we'll get to that later. Another good concept to know is that of CCC, Comfortable Carrying Capacity. This is an estimation done by the resort on how many guests it can accommodate in a day without the resort getting overcrowded. The Waterville Master Plan itself says, quote, "The accurate estimation of the CCC is a complex issue. We won't go as in-depth with CCC in this video as we have in other MDP breakdowns, but it's still a good concept to understand." Waterville Valley's master plan, contrary to most out there, was prepared in-house. Thus, it's written much more concisely and comprehensively than those of bigger resorts who hire out the process. As such, I've linked the plan in the description and would absolutely recommend giving it a read if you've got time to kill. Additionally, it has a much higher consideration of impact on the town and valley than most other MDPs do, and does not specify an order for projects to be carried out. This plan does stipulate that build-out of this plan is anticipated for 10 years from publishing, which would indicate we should be seeing some of these proposed projects fairly soon, although we personally doubt that the entirety of the plan will be finished by 2029. Since there's no explicit timeline and order of projects, let's begin by exploring what we'll call the legacy footprint, the terrain on Mount Tecumseh. Here on screen you can see the trail map from 2016. Within this footprint, the clear primary lift is the White Peaks Express Quad. Even in 2016, this lift was on the older side, struggling with wind closures, maintenance issues, and the occasional long line. In the master plan, this lift is proposed to be replaced with a new 6-person chairlift, and in 2022 they did just that, constructing the Tecumseh Express, which features bubbles for further comfort. Notably, this lift was constructed by the company MND, making it the first MND detachable in North America. For more on this, check out the video in the card at the top right of your screen. Now, despite Tecumseh featuring bigger, heavier chairs, it still struggles with wind. The top breakover is incredibly windy, to no fault of Waterville's own. The decision to include bubbles on the new lift could be deemed as questionable given that Waterville knew about the winds, but they clearly decided that the extra comfort outweighed the few extra openings they get without bubbles. Unfortunately, the prevailing winds at this breakover are a crosswind, which is what causes Tecumseh to go on wind holds so often. However, these crosswinds just so happen to be blowing directly down the line of the Sunnyside Triple, which is why it is also in the master plan. With the winds being more direct on the line plus it being a fixed grip lift, Sunnyside has a much higher wind tolerance than Tecumseh typically does, allowing it to operate when Tecumseh can't. In this way, Waterville can maintain summit access on windy days, something that many competitors can't say. To continue this reliability, the MDP proposes replacing Sunnyside with a modern fixed grip quad. This lift will have an even higher wind tolerance and capacity, along with better reliability than what is currently an extremely old lift. One interesting note about Waterville Valley's history is that of this high country area. Back when the White Peaks Express Quad was installed in 1988, it ran all the way to the top of high country, parallel to the original high country double chair. They realized pretty quickly that that was a poor decision, shortening the quad in 1996 to avoid the crazy winds at the summit. The double chair still struggled with wind, and as it got older and older, it began to become unreliable. Thus, in 2018, the mountain replaced the double chair with a T-bar, which is more reliable, doesn't go on wind hold, and runs much faster than the double could. Add in the White Peaks replacement, and you get the lift layout we see today. Now, there has historically been a lift parallel to the bottom of the main lift, running in an alignment known as World Cup. For a long time it was a triple chair running up to the top of the chute and Cell's Choice here. In 2016 it was removed, and we'll get to that in a bit. Also in this lower part of the mountain, there have historically been T-bars and other surface lifts serving single runs or small patches of terrain. One such was the World Cup T-bar, which served the lower half of the World Cup run. This lift is critical for windy days in order for race teams to still be able to access their courses for training. However, the old T-bar didn't serve the full length of these lower runs, so also in the master plan is a replacement, which was carried out in 2025. The new lift is easier to access at the base area and runs up to a location that affords access to the entire length of Tommy's World Cup run. While the T-bar is designed for the competition teams, it is also supposed to be open to the public. Higher up on the current map, you can see the Northside double chair. This lift allows for quick laps on some of the best blues at the mountain, but is not the exclusive access. That's to say, this area can easily be lapped via Tecumseh, and as such, the plan proposes removing Northside without replacement. On paper, this looks simple, but it's a bit curious that the removal has not yet been carried out nearly 7 years after the plan was published. Surprisingly, at least in early December of 2025, Northside was even still spinning and open in the mornings, even on weekdays. All this would seem to signal that there's something holding Waterville back. Maybe it's wind concerns about Tecumseh, or maybe it's something else altogether. Nonetheless, it will certainly be interesting to see how much longer Northside holds on. Now, back in 2013, well before the larger expansion we'll discuss next, the Forest Service approved a 45-acre expansion on the northwest face of Green Peak. In 2016, that approval was used to relocate the World Cup triple chair over to Green Peak, opening up a dozen new trails of all ability levels. The choice of relocating an old lift seems odd on paper until you hear the story of that particular lift. Originally installed in 1985, the World Cup triple was struck by lightning in 2000, destroying the bottom station and haul rope. The lift was extensively overhauled as a result. Additionally, the lift only ran weekends and holidays for most of its history, so it had an exceptionally low number of hours for a lift so old. Of course, that 2016 expansion was not just as simple as a small terrain expansion. It was the first step of a much larger project to turn Waterville from a single peak mountain to an expansive resort. The rest of the plan is highlighted in the 2019 master plan, and it all starts in the town. From the town, a new gondola or chondola is proposed, which would run across Tripoli Road to a mid-station where it would turn and continue up to the top of Green Peak. At this mid-station, there would be a new base area, which we'll come back to. The primary goal of this project is not necessarily as much about expanding the skiing footprint as it is about creating a reliable transportation link between the town and the resort. The master plan cites that, quote, "The lift, like many other examples of transit systems, will be the catalyst that creates a vibrant center. This connection will dramatically affect Waterville Valley Resort by creating a visual and physical connection linking Waterville Valley Resort and the town of Waterville Valley." One important stipulation of the master plan is that the new gondola would be able to operate its two sections independently. Additionally, the lift would run outside of ski season, enabling the development of off-season activities at the resort. Underneath the lift, a minimum of 3 beginner trails with snowmaking would link the legacy footprint to the new base area. This pod could be expanded to include several more trails over time, although it will likely begin with just the 3 trails stipulated by the master plan. Additionally, at full build-out, the pod would see another chairlift, likely a triple, running from the mid-station to near the top of the existing Lower Meadows double chair. All in all, this would see Waterville's CCC increase from 5,395 guests per day to 7,866. Now, this new mid-station will likely eventually have its own base area lodge, along with parking and a new home for ski school. Accompanying that latter part, The magic carpets that are currently tucked away behind Tecumseh and the base lodge would be relocated to the mid-station where a much wider learning area could be constructed. Since the gondola would start in town, the town square area would become home to ticket sales, lockers, rentals, restaurants, and administrative offices. Later on in the vision, a mid-mountain restaurant would be constructed at the top of Green Peak. And finally, much further down the line, another terrain expansion could be constructed in an area known as South Ridge. There are also a handful of smaller projects included in the master plan. The first is to increase snowmaking capacity from 2019's 85% coverage to full wall-to-wall snowmaking covering every trail. This would require a new containment pond to be built, likely down near the town. The Nordic Trail system would see expansion in a few spots and could eventually be home to its own snowmaking system. It would also see trail maintenance and a few bridge replacements. The master plan mentions development of further summer activities, but does not specify what exactly would be built, instead broadly suggesting scenic lift rides, disc golf, hiking, biking, and hosting special events. So now we get to what the burning question always is. Will it happen? And if so, when? Well, as we've discussed, the elements of the plan within the existing SUP have already occurred. This just leaves the gondola and expansion, which likely will not appear out of the blue like some of these other projects did. Instead, it'll make small waves when the resort applies for SUP expansion and project approval from the Forest Service. It'll make bigger waves as trees start getting flagged for removal, and by the time it's officially announced, it'll likely already be well known. You've probably noticed that we've used the future tense instead of the conditional throughout this video, and that's because we truly do believe it will happen. It may not happen within the original 10-year timeline, but it would not surprise us at all to see it happen sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. The later projects, such as the chairlift within the expansion zone and the further South Ridge expansion, remain to be seen, but we are fully optimistic that we'll someday see a gondola or chondola connecting the town of Waterville Valley to Waterville Valley Resort. As you can see, while this isn't necessarily as big or dramatic as Deer Valley's Expanded Excellence initiative, Waterville Valley's master plan presents something just as transformative. This is the missing link to bring the town and resort together, bringing the town from just a small mountain community to a genuine weekend getaway. By and large, this is not a project targeted at locals, or even really anyone from New Hampshire. From the looks of it, this is fully 100% aimed at the city of Boston. And as a result of that, we anticipate that there will be some pushback. Perhaps some unpublicized pushback has already occurred and is part of the holdup in the completion of the plan. Regardless, Waterville Valley is forging ahead with a complete transformation of the mountain and likely the overall experience. What we doubt will be lost, whether the full plan is built or not, is the racing spirit and genuine culture of the mountain. Those two things can never be replaced. Of course, we'd love to hear any and all of your thoughts down below. If you want to see an example of what happens when a community does push back against a master plan, click the top left video on your screen now. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please consider subscribing to help support this stream. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.